Alright, this is the tour. This is Boston Common. It's one of the oldest publicly owned parks in the United States. When they first settled the area, this was used for grazing. They would share the land, but then eventually the city bought it, so now it's a park. They have plays here, concerts. John Kerry's been here. A lot of famous people are buried here. Alright, come on. A lot of these gravestones are like from around the Revolutionary War. They're made of slate, so they don't hold up over time. That's why a lot of them have been destroyed, eroded. He's a famous figure in revolutionary times. He was a famous speaker in Boston. He came up with no taxation without representation. He made that up. Then he got in a fight and he got a brain injury. And they didn't know how to fix him, so he got like insane. And then he became an embarrassment to the revolution. So they shipped him off to live with like his cousins in the country. Because they didn't want him around anymore. So he died like a sick, crazy person. That's Paul Revere. This is built later. The original gravestone's a small one next to it. He was one of the famous people who rode, but he got the poem. That's why he's the most famous one. But before that poem got written, he wasn't that important. And now people throw these coins here because he has a coppersmith, so they put pennies by his grave. Here's Sam Adams, famous patriot. What in modern day times we would call a terrorist. They were messing things up, scaring people, making things explode. They'd all hang out in like pubs, just drinking, talking, figuring out what they're gonna do. Crispus Attucks, thought of as the first person to die in the Revolutionary War. He was killed in the Boston Massacre. He was a black guy, he was the first person to die. The rest are also all died in the Boston Massacre. That's kind of what started all the revolutionary things. And we're gonna go back to that site later. This is a trick for tourists. Benjamin Franklin hated Boston. He left, and he's buried in Philadelphia. This is his parents. John Hancock, famous, complicated figure in American history. I think the first governor of Massachusetts. He was from a very rich family, and as the Sons of Liberty were harassing people, trying to get them to go to their cause. He was one of the first to back them. And you could say that's because he believed in liberty, or you could say it's because he was kind of a younger guy and saw what was going on, and he was kind of afraid, so he decided to back the people who were outside his door with guns. But whatever the case was, he supported them, one of the first. And he had money, he had financial backing during the Revolutionary War. A lot of his money is what kept the Revolutionary Army afloat. He wanted to be the first general. They picked George Washington. He hated that. He wanted to have, he writes his name big. He wanted to be famous. He wanted to be the first president. That went to George Washington. He also hated that. The first time Washington went through Boston after the Revolutionary War, there was a parade. He was the governor of Massachusetts. He didn't greet Washington at the parade. He's a very important figure, and he risked his life just like everyone else did during that time. This is the steakhouse. Girls would get torn down. You can get steak in here. Boston's a proud democratic city. See here, there's a statue of a dock symbolizing their Democratic Party, which has been in power in Boston for a long time. They had the donkey because Andrew Jackson was a popular figure, but he was also hated. So people would call him a jackass. And the party took the donkey as their symbol because they loved him so much. They said, yeah, we're jackasses. Now they're Trump people, that's the same thing. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, we're stopping at this statue commemorating the Irish history and heritage in Boston. This statue symbolizes the Great Potato Famine, where people were sick and poor and dying. Then they were able to come to America, find opportunity, food, become healthy, and support their families. The site of the Boston Massacre, right here. I'm gonna start a little bit farther back. The street is called State Street, but before the United States was a thing, it was called King's Road. This was the King's Road, this street. At the time, this was a wharf that went miles into the water. It was the second or third largest wharf in the world in the 1700s. It was really long. And when people would come to Boston, when people come to America from Europe, they get on a boat and they get off on this wharf. And this is the first steps in America was on this street. So this street was a market. So there were people coming in from Europe, they were selling things. There were always people here. That's why it was a really busy street. And then one day, there were some people starting to hate the English are putting in taxes. They're being mean to the colonists. Around here, you got the governor's house, you got the port. So there's a lot of soldiers in this area. Some young people one day were throwing snowballs at them. Some of those snowballs had rocks in them. The soldiers were getting hurt, but they knew they can't do anything about it. But they started to get scared because there's more and more kids throwing rocks at them, yelling at them, swearing at them, saying they're going to beat them up and kill them. It's really loud. The story goes that the leader of the soldiers is saying, yeah, he's trying to yell out to all the soldiers, but they can't hear him. He's trying to say, don't fire, don't fire. But someone hears fire, and they start shooting up into the crowd. And that's when 5 or 6 people die, and they become martyrs for the revolution. And that's one of the beginnings of really what the Revolutionary War was, when those kids died here. All right, Faneuil Hall. It's now a famous tourist spot. Started at the tour here. Before, it was like the biggest market in Boston. People come here to buy goods. They come here to talk about the revolution. The second floor was a floor where they'd give speeches. Samuel Adams and other people would be talking about the revolution. JFK is giving a speech here, even 200 years later. So this is a famous place where a lot of things happen. It's called Faneuil Hall because it was land that was built, donated by a man named something Faneuil. He was French. He was really rich. He was known to be really stingy, so he saved all of his money. He didn't eat out. He didn't eat fancy stuff. He never got married. He never had kids. He had 2 nephews, and he wanted to give it to the one who was most like him. So he wanted them to be stingy. He wanted them to never get married. One got married, so he couldn't get it. The second was like his uncle. He saved all his money. He was stingy. When the uncle died, he got all the money. After his uncle died, he used it all up. He was drinking. He had parties all the time. In a few years, he died. He only lasted a couple of years because he went crazy. He was on drugs and stuff like that. And then once he died, all the money went to the other guy with the wife, so he got it. Part of the tour, this is Clark's. There's Hong Kong over here. This is a dirty street. If you want to get drunk, you come here. It's cheap. It's a lot of drunk people. The street's called Hong Kong. It's been here for a long time. You go on the top floor, you get drunk. You go on the bottom floor, you can eat Chinese food late at night, all night.